All right, let's dive into a really crucial piece of the radical candor puzzle: guidance between peers. This is where the whole idea moves beyond just being a tool for managers and becomes a superpower for how we all work together as equals. Because let's face it, the best teams out there, they're not built on rigid hierarchy. They're built on respect and honest feedback.
But here's the thing. This is really, really hard to do. Think about it for a second. Why is it so rare to be truly honest with our peers at work? How many times have you held back on saying something to a colleague just because, it feels awkward, or you're worried about creating some kind of tension? In most offices, our relationships with our peers are where honesty just goes to die. We end up choosing politeness over the truth that could actually help everyone.
And this quote from Kim Scott just nails why we have to fix this. Your boss, right? They see the final presentation, that polished report. But your peers? They see the whole messy process. They see the first draft, the late-night brainstorming, the actual day-to-day work. Their perspective is absolutely invaluable. And when they give you feedback with care, that's the biggest sign of respect they can show. It means they care enough about you and your work to actually speak up.
So this slide really lays out the choice we have. Over on the left, that's the default setting for most teams, right? Misunderstandings just simmer under the surface, resentment builds up, and office politics, not the best ideas, end up winning the day. But then, look at the right side. When you have candor, problems get solved super early, people debate the ideas instead of getting personal, and you get real, powerful collaboration. It's just a totally different and way better way to work.
So the big question is, how do we get to that world on the right? Well, the answer is learning how to practice radical candor sideways. This isn't just some technique for managers. It's a whole framework for building way stronger, more effective relationships with the people you're in the trenches with every single day.
And to get this right, you have to understand these two core ideas. See, it's not just about being brutally honest. Kim Scott calls that obnoxious aggression. And it's definitely not just about being nice to avoid a little conflict. That's what she calls ruinous empathy. No, radical candor is that sweet spot, that magic that happens when you genuinely care about the person and you have the guts to challenge them directly, for their own good and for the good of the whole team.
This quote just perfectly explains the power dynamics at play. Challenging your direct reports? That can feel like it's just part of the job description. Challenging your boss? That can feel super risky, like you're putting your neck on the line. But challenging your peers, consistently and respectfully, that's what builds real trust and influence. It shows you're invested in everyone's success, not just your own. And that, right there, is the mark of a true leader, no matter what your job title is.
Okay, so that's the why. Now let's get into the how. How do you actually start giving this kind of feedback to a colleague without, it blowing up in your face?
It really boils down to these 4 practical steps. First, and this is huge, you have to start from a place of respect, not authority. You're an equal, so instead of saying you should do this, you could try something like, hey, I have a thought that might help. Second, don't save everything for a big, scary performance review. Use these little micro moments, quick, specific feedback right after something happens. Third, be humble about it. You can acknowledge your own perspective is limited by saying something like, I might be missing part of the picture here, but this is what I noticed. And finally, check your intent. This isn't about proving you're right. It's about being genuinely helpful.
Now, let's flip this around to the other side of the coin, which is honestly just as important, maybe even more so. Giving candid feedback is a risk. So when a peer takes that risk with you, the way you respond basically decides if they'll ever do it again.
This table makes the difference crystal clear. Our gut reaction so often is to get defensive, isn't it? That's not true, or you're totally overreacting. But a radically candid response actually rewards them for their honesty. Instead of shutting them down, you open the door. You say, tell me more, or, wow, I hadn't seen it that way. Thanks for pointing it out. That one simple shift turns what could be a confrontation into a genuine collaboration.
And this is so important. Every single time you react badly to feedback, you're sending a message, not just to that one person, but to everybody else who's watching. And that message is, honesty isn't welcome here. You are, without even meaning to, building a culture of silence.
So let's zoom out a bit from these one-on-one moments. How do you take these ideas and actually weave them into the DNA of your entire team so that peer feedback becomes the normal thing to do, not the weird, awkward exception? Whether you're a manager or just someone people look up to on the team, you can do 3 key things. First, you have to model it.
Publicly thank a peer who challenges one of your ideas. Show everyone that it's a good thing, a valuable thing. Second, you have to normalize it. Build little feedback moments right into your regular meetings. For example, you could end your weekly sync with a quick 5-minute feedback round, where everyone shares one thing that went well and one thing that could be even better next time. And third, you have to protect it. If you see someone getting heat for being candid, you have to step in. Don't let gossip or retaliation take root.
It's also really important to tweak your approach based on who you're talking to. This framework shows you how. When you're giving feedback to someone from another team, say you're in engineering talking to design, frame it around your shared goal. Like, hey, we both want to build the best product here. That helps avoid turf wars. If you're a more senior peer talking to a junior one, you should explicitly ask for their feedback by saying, I really value your input, to make them feel safe. And with peers at your same level, using I statements and being genuinely curious is the best way to build that solid horizontal trust.
All right, theory is great, but change only happens when we actually do something. So here is a super simple, concrete challenge you can try this week to start building this muscle.
We're going to call it the peer feedback loop. Step 1, pick one peer you work with closely. Step 2, ask them this really simple question. Hey, is there one thing I could do better in how I collaborate with you? Step 3, just listen. Seriously, don't defend yourself, don't make excuses, just say thank you. Step 4, and this is key, you reciprocate. Ask them, would you be open to me sharing one thought that might help you too? And finally, step 5, just take a minute to reflect on what you both learned.
Now, this might feel like a really small thing, but trust me, if you and your team start doing this regularly, the results are massive. In just a few weeks, you will see a real, tangible shift. Trust skyrockets, misunderstandings disappear, and the speed at which you can all solve problems together just increases dramatically. I want you to remember this. Mastering peer candor isn't just some nice-to-have communication skill. It is the absolute foundation of a high-performing, honest, and resilient team culture. It's the one skill that can fundamentally change everything for the better.
And that leaves us with one last thing to think about. Just imagine your own workplace for a minute. What would actually change for you, for your team, for your company's results, if getting feedback stopped being this rare, awkward thing and instead became a totally normal, expected part of every single day?